on the channel before, and today's a very big week because we're talking Wildcard, Game Week 6 Wildcard. And just to give context to everyone either watching or listening on audio later, um, Meera has activated her Wildcard. I've basically activated because I've made transfers. I haven't pressed the button yet. I'm just trying to do what Tian does usually and manipulate the transfer market, but here we are. And then Chaza, you have 3 free transfers and you're unsure on whether you press that button or you play your transfers, which I think would help those other managers who are in very similar positions like you in terms of deciding what exactly to do. So having said all of that and given context to everyone, how is everyone doing?
Good. Yeah, feeling good. I'm kind of drafted. I feel like I'm exhausted from doing all the drafts, if I'm honest with you. There's just so many variations, and I think largely thanks to the price points this season. It's really nice. It's sort of open for so many different combinations. So yeah, but otherwise feeling good. Yeah, just coming off a really good, nice small green arrow and a good rank as well. So early on. But yeah, feeling good in general.
Awesome. Chaza?
Firstly, good evening to you, Chatbox. Good evening to you, Meera. Glad to see you both again. Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you. I've probably just taken a couple of days off. It's not more of a rage quit sort. It's just more, it's 5 weeks into the season. There's always that we see, with, especially in the Twitter community, there's a lot that can be going on in terms of discussion and disagreement. So I just probably took that time away from it, but it's good to be back. And in terms of sitting on the fence, so those fences you see in front of the usual construction site, how big they are, that's pretty much how tall the fence is. It's just a matter of if I'm going to jump over it or not. But I'm very intrigued by this wildcard talk. Is it too early in the season? We're not too sure, but I think the fixture swings have a major insurmountable say as for why a lot of people pull in the trigger.
Fair enough. Having said pulling the trigger, Meera, what's the reason you actually pulled the trigger on the wildcard?
So for me, playing the wildcard is not necessarily because I have a really bad team. So I don't have a really bad team. I think my team is in a decent place. I had only one free transfer though going into game week 6. So I guess from that point of view, I knew that I was going to struggle with a lot of the wildcarders in game week 4. I don't think I'm set up really well for the fixture swing that sort of comes in for game week 6 onwards as well. So I looked at my team and funny enough, I was talking to Andrew. So Point Break, from the FPL SideNet podcast guys, like brilliant podcast. If you haven't caught it, definitely worth checking out. But I was talking to Andrew and Andrew was like, oh, I want to hold on to my wildcard for as long as possible. And I was with that same mindset as well. It only became a problem for me when I had more than almost like 7 players that I wanted to probably switch out, and 3-4 of them where I wasn't confident about them starting on a regular basis, and then at least another 2 or 3 of them where I wasn't confident about having them on the bench in case the other ones weren't starting. So all of a sudden I'm thinking I've got to switch out like 6 to 8 players roughly. I should just play the wild card and just maintain the momentum that I've had as well. So I'm currently ranked, 15,000. Which is great. I'm really happy with that. It's a really good start to the season. Still very early days, still very tightly packed. But that doesn't mean that you don't sort of, try and be strategic about how you're going to approach the next kind of block of fixtures that are coming up as well. So I'm looking at it from that point of view. There's no such thing as dead ending anymore. We can roll 5 transfers. So this enables me to roll, more transfers. So I'll limit how many transfers I make post the wildcard. So hopefully after the next international break, I'll have, maybe 3-4 transfers to focus on, game weeks 8 to 11 or something.
Fair enough. I have very similar situations. Like I had players like Isak, Lewis Hall. I think Newcastle in general was a big problem for me. Then I just had like other players that were there. Like I bought in Minte for like a 2-game week punt. That became a huge problem as well. So there were players that I didn't like. And I was like, I just need to get rid of these guys. And there was like Chaza mentioned, there's like this fixture swing that is coming up. I was like, okay, let me target it. Let me address some issues that I had that I didn't maybe jump on earlier. Like, for example, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was not having Arsenal defense. Because I looked at the start of the fixture season and I was like, oh, these aren't the easiest of fixtures. That maybe they might not keep a clean sheet. And here we go, Gabriel, even if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he keeps scoring goals. Meera is getting jam. And like, it's just so, I'm like, oh, should I just done that move at the start? So the whole point was to try and like fix any mistakes that I made at the start of the season without delaying them even further. And to try and get like a whole better squad as well. The other thing I guess is like because I went with Salah and Haaland, and when you go with both, it restricts the amount of players you can get as a supporting cast. And if you don't pick your supporting cast properly, you end up in unfortunate situations with like players that are just like not appearing on the bench or not playing at all. So yeah, so I've unfortunately not picked my supporting cast properly, even though my star players are playing at peak performance. But yeah, so I had to kind of like make that move, and I've basically pressed that button effectively. Chaza, on the other hand, what's your current thinking?
It's quite a hard one because there's a lot of players who you feel when I look at them that look, I could be okay for another 2 more weeks, but they're also playing for wrong teams at the wrong time. So as you mentioned, Newcastle, but there's not much there. Fulham's an intriguing one because they now have a tough run and they seem to have ended their good run of fixtures. They're players that are starting, yet it is also a good opportunity now to move to better assets at a similar pricing. So that's probably the awkward spot. In terms of major issues, it probably doesn't surmount to the same amount that Meera may have at the moment or the way she views it. But it's just more, am I being too stubborn in terms of holding it any more longer? Because wildcard is the most powerful chip in the game. There's no argument about that. It's just more, is it going to deliver its instant returns we're looking for? In addition, in game week 4, when a lot of people wanted to bring Salah in, and he's only got 1 assist within the last 2 game weeks, just there's a lot that plays out with timing.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
It makes it so easy when he got only 2 assists in like 2 games when you wanted like him to really perform. It would have been so much more harder to convince myself to like sell Salah if he had just banged a hat-trick in the last game. Which is not, he's very well capable that he does this against Wolves as well this weekend, given that they've lost Mascara to injury as well. But it just makes it so much more easier off the back of 2 assists only.
Yeah, Ryan, I was going to ask you a question. When you drafted Salah and Haaland together, did you know that you were going to take out one of them, or that you were going to take out Salah in this scenario?
No, I had no intention of taking out either.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Because the fixtures still looked good on paper. I was hoping that I would have picked that supporting cast properly, which I unfortunately didn't. And now it's just that if I was to wildcard now, because of the team value that I've lost as well, added to that, and also because of, I would say, maybe we've got a bit more extra information, because initially we expected like Newcastle to be better compared to like 2 seasons ago. Even at the end of last season, we thought they'll improved, but they haven't. I guess Arsenal just continue to be defensively solid. Attacking wise, they haven't really performed as much, but Saka and Havertz, I thought they will perform, and they've done what they've done so far. What else? I guess I went with United attack, which Rashford, I gave him 3 weeks. Didn't perform. I sold him, and then the next week he performed. I was like, oh my days. And I picked Nkunku, which I maybe now looking at it, I shouldn't have done that. But like, because we knew Nkunku's quality, the only thing we didn't consider was new manager, maybe not fancying starting him. Because before the season started, if you were to ask me who's the better player, Jackson or Nkunku, I would be like, Nkunku all day. And I still say Nkunku all day. But it's just that the new manager prefers Jackson at the moment in that specific role. So Nkunku is out here scoring goals in the Mickey Mouse Cups, and I'm just like, watching this guy. You were supposed to do that in the Premier League, not here. But
Yeah.
like, yeah. Um,
There's been so many 50-50 picks. We were chatting about that on Twitter as well. Like Tien sort of posted about like, making your picks and then, just getting them wrong because there's so many 50-50 picks because of the price points at the moment as well. But interestingly, I approached the bringing in Salah and Haaland knowing I was going to get rid of one of them. I just didn't know which one that was going to be. I knew, like, I think when I saw the price points, that it's going to be super challenging to want to bring in Son and Palmer and Saka at anywhere between that sort of 9 million to 10.5 million that they've all been sitting at. And then, having Salah and Haaland as well, so from a combination point of view, I think when I was looking at the fixture ticker, I knew that I'd probably be removing at least one of them. I just didn't know which one. And it just came down to who was going to be scoring consistently, getting maximum number of points. And for a while, it's been Haaland and Salah, pretty much neck and neck, right? But I think like what you can do with the funds, from Salah versus Haaland, who is just going to be a pain now. I decided to go with Salah in the end to remove, and very reluctantly removing Salah from my team as well, just because I wanted to catch some of the price increases as well, and so there was a bunch of players that I took out, from the team quite quickly, including like ESR, who has been quite consistent. So again, those 50-50 picks, I feel like I've been on the positive side of those. And I've had a really lucky start to the season, and just picking the right, the player that has come off well over the last 5 game weeks with those 50-50 picks. I had Havertz in the team as well. So, but I didn't go with Saka, who every time I saw was looking great. So I had a lot of FOMO looking at Saka.
but you had Gabriel to support.
I had Gabriel.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And FPL Crisis mentioned in the chat, I blame Kwanzaa. I had Kwanzaa as well. See, this is what happened
too.
to me. Yeah.
Me too.
It's just like bad pick after bad pick. I never got a chance to like really roll a transfer. And the only time I got a chance to roll a transfer was just last week, where I was like, okay, let me just roll a transfer for once. But like, just like I was just fighting files from game week 1 effectively. So that's why I kind of I'm like, okay, I'm sick and tired of it. Press the wildcard. Let's see what happens. Having said all of that, I think let's get straight into this is like Chaza was going to tell me the season ticker masala.
You really did go there, didn't you? I
did.
Just said it before. Just thought, no, I'm sure no one will say it. And now
I like it.
Yeah, look, thank you. Cheers. I'll make sure I use it for every week possible. I don't know.
For the next 6 game weeks, with Everton on top, Brentford in second, West Ham third, Ipswich up there as well, and Spurs and City following that. At the bottom, we got Brighton, Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, Southampton, Liverpool are there, but I wouldn't count that as like if I was to look at that from an attacking point of view, I'm like I'll just put them up there as well. But what do you guys think?
I think on this ticker, there's a lot of managers who have Brighton assets and probably keen to depart from Newcastle assets. Chelsea we've pretty much got rid of. Bournemouth's an intriguing one because their next 2 fixtures are really good. See, I think it might even be worth bringing in Bournemouth assets, or maybe even one. Who I'm talking about is Semenyo, of course. Despite you look at it from medium front, it's quite difficult. But the only other team that I think is going to have a big say on this is Fulham assets. But outside of that, it's sort of middle in the road, or managers have gone down that path in a way to be different. So I could understand there being huge talks of a wildcard, and maybe wildcard 6 makes more sense than wildcard 4. We just don't know that from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah.
As of yet.
Yeah, fair enough. Meera, anything to add?
No, I've just been churning out a lot of wildcard drafts, recently, and that's got me looking at not just the game week 6 and game week 7 Obviously, when you're using so many tools that are available to you now online, where you can do some of your planning, you can go as far as you want, with your fixtures and the players that you have, and you're constantly swapping them in and out. And so, the Semenyo picks with Bournemouth, like, I get it. It makes a lot of sense. He's been playing really well. I mean, he got a goal against Liverpool, even though that was not counted. But yeah, it's 2 fixtures that look really good. But after that, yeah, sure, you could probably bench him. But yeah, there's, I can see why there's some of the picks that are coming through as well, even like Chelsea. So yeah, Chelsea's got some good fixtures, and you could probably argue that you just hold on to Chelsea players because, like last season, Palmer was just fixture proof, and he just kind of powered through that. But his positioning's been slightly different this time as well. So I can see why, like, some of the wild cards are being played, like especially for the Arsenal assets, even though there's like 3 fixtures there that are probably the prime ones. But yeah, there's a couple of picks here and there where I'm like, I'm not sure about that. And why people will be, managers would be bringing them in. So yeah.
Fair enough. Let's move in to the fixtures, and I guess we'll talk about the teams and like which players they were targeting and all of that. Let's start with Newcastle City. Now, obviously, Chaza mentioned like one team we kind of want to get rid of. The other team we're looking to try and target. From a Newcastle point of view, everyone's a sale, right? Or do you think like even Harvey Barnes maybe?
Considering the way City concede their goals sometimes, would you not think that Newcastle attackers would actually be really up for this game? Because Gordon Isak were, I know it's last season. I think Newcastle, if they go on a counter-attack sort of spree, they may get lucky. Because City aren't as sharp defensively.
They have that chance of occasionally conceding a goal here, there, and everywhere. Like whenever they have the lead, especially, there's a chance for them to always concede.
That's
Yeah.
my only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that I still like Isak as a player. He's been a little bit sort of lackluster at the moment, which is a shame, I think. But it's not Isak necessarily. The whole team's just been a little bit off. But Harvey Barnes, yeah, he's been getting returns. And it's a tricky one because if you're playing your wild card, I've not seen a single wild card draft that has got a Newcastle player in it. And rightfully so, because they've not really been looking on form, right? So why would you spend, how much is Harvey Barnes? Like 6.5?
6.4, I think, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. I'm
okay.
not sure. Yeah.
It's just a really awkward price point as well, isn't it? Like when you look at what you've got available, like Semenyo is like 5.6 at the moment. And then you've got, Rodgers at sort of 5 mil as well. Everyone's thinking about Carvalho now as well at that 4.8. But around that sort of, 6.5 to, I mean, between 6 and 7, there's not that many options. Although I imagine people will be thinking about jumping back onto Nkuku, I'm sure. And you got, Madueke as well, at that sort of 6.5. So there are a couple of options. There's quite a few City options as well. So if you've got those in comparison, when you look at the fixture ticker, I don't know, like Harvey Barnes doesn't feel as appealing when you've got, if you're going to punt on Harvey Barnes, you may as well punt on, I don't know, Bernardo or Savinho, or, maybe go for Nkuku again and Madueke and hope for the best.
Yeah, because they have City, Arsenal, and Chelsea in the next 6, basically. Not the easiest of fixtures as well. Having said that, City, on the other hand, now, Haaland is Haaland. Everyone, at this point, I'm just going to say essential. Just get him in your wildcard draft. If you're wildcarding and you're not having Haaland, I don't know what you're doing. Effectively. I'm just going to say that out. But apart from Haaland, unless you're Andy Martin, poor Andy Martin. I feel sorry for him. But apart from Haaland, there are a few others. Now, Rodri is most likely out for the season, which probably does take an impact on their defense, I would say. Having said that, we still do like to take a punt on their defenders. There are 2 players that I've mentioned. Guardiola, who looked very attacking against Arsenal, had a couple chances. And the other option that has risen like the Undertaker back to life is Rico Lewis. Who can he get back into the team? Maybe, I don't know. They're the opening fixture. Maybe we'll get a leak. I don't know. Potentially that he's starting. What do you guys think? Because I was listening to like you said, I'm still in halfway through FPL Sidnet's podcast, and there was a question asked to Andrew of like, would you punt on Rico Lewis? And he said yes. I'm currently in that territory of would I punt on Rico Lewis? But what do you guys think?
It's a really good question. I think he became a viable option more recently, just because of the Rodri announcement. As in, we saw that Rodri went off injured, and there was a risk and chance there that he was going to be out for substantial amount of time. I wasn't expecting the rest of the season, so I think given that, I think Lewis does become a bit of a viable option. I was listening to a few podcasts and things that had come out just over the last sort of day or two. And interestingly, I think it was Let's Talk FPL, Andy and Prass and Luke, who had done a Spaces that I managed to catch briefly this morning. And Luke, if you don't know, he's been doing a lot of the Jump the Wave, predictions for Man City, lineups, and he had a really good, interesting take on it. That, or at least like his sort of analysis of what could be going on there. He, whilst he may not play in defence, in the tougher sort of fixtures, and I think he called him a midget or something like that, which was absolutely hilarious. But like it might be that he does get those easier fixtures, and he may play, as a winger. But Luke thought that, so this is the too long didn't listen version of it. But it sounded like Luke was saying Guardiola was the better pick, to have in the team. And it's not necessarily that, Lewis will replace Walker even as well, like on pace especially. And so, whilst Lewis is a good pick, it's almost like a fourth defender. And so if you're playing a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2 or something like that, can you play 3-5-2? Yeah, you can play 3-5-2. If you were playing that, then you're looking at Lewis as your fourth defender, and with the risk of him being benched occasionally, or minutes sort of being a bit of a risk. But it seems like Stones may come into that kind of bit more of that role that Rodri. I mean, there's other options as well that City have as well. We just don't know. Like, given that he's going to be out for the whole season, Pep could line up completely differently, because while he's been sort of planning for Rodri's going to be back, I'm just going to put some band-aids around the team a little bit to just make it work. It seems like it's going to be a bit more of a longer term solution now, and that might be something entirely different to what we've seen already.
Fair enough. Chaza?
I think with City defenders in general, and how many competitions that sides decides to play in at this time of year every season, I'm just not sure if it's worth it. That's all. I think Rico Lewis, for the value could be, but if you're too nervous about him getting rotated, I don't really see much point in owning him. And as a City defender, I'd probably even have him as a third choice defender, not fourth, because I think City and their ceiling, for what it's worth, I just think a fourth, maybe as a fourth ranked defender in fantasy sides, just maybe running a little too steep.
I'd probably look to rotate him, if anything.
Yeah.
Him with another defender, I would look to rotate. And I found one in terms of Mikalenko, potentially, to rotate with. But we'll get to Everton later. But yeah, that's one option. But like I said, like Meera said, like Guardiola probably is still the best option. But would there be other like City defenders that you like? Because people are looking at like Akanji, thinking that he might be an option.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't go there as well. I think like I'd prefer to go with Lewis, and still as the rotating sort of, I'm not going to always play him. In fact, if I brought him in and I was more comfortable with the 4.5 that I bring in defender as well, I'd be happy to bench Lewis against Newcastle, given it's an away fixture, and Newcastle's still been fairly decent at home. So yeah, I don't know. I don't feel confident with the City defense, especially with Rodri out as well. So I think with the wildcard, like, you're committing to some extent, and defenders are not transfers that I usually like to make as well. So, if anything, I don't mind starting higher. So starting with Guardiola and then looking at taking him out if things don't work out. And that too, that could be going back to a Porro or, another option around that sort of 6 million and under mark, right? So there's plenty of options there. But I think going with Lewis and, like I say, not feeling comfortable, like not feeling confident, Chaz, wouldn't be something that I'd want to be, thinking about in the long term as well. So I don't mind the rotation though, like Lewis and someone else to rotate with, like comfortably, would be fine.
Fair enough. Has there anything else on City defense?
Not
Fair
at the moment.
Yeah.
I just rate other sides' defenses a little bit better to start the season.
Okay, let's go to City attack because there's a question from Shiraz with regards to Savinho, who has looked good, 6.5 affordable. Unfortunately, we would have all loved to have had Foden in a draft here, but he hasn't played many minutes, and we still don't know where he's going to be utilized this season. So we can't realistically go there at the moment. But what do you guys think? Other like Savinho or City midfielders? No.
Yeah, I can start on this. De Bruyne, I think, has had a good start to the year. I think in terms of midfielders similar to Savinho's price, it's just a matter of, can you bank on them starting games when you really need them to count? I'm not too sure, because Pep just loves to rotate his squad too much. In addition, I feel there's better fantasy options from other sides in a similar price point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with what you said there, Chaz. I just don't think. I wouldn't feel I wouldn't feel confident about it. I think if anything, I'd still want to aim to have KDB or Foden back in. I just don't know. Like at the moment, we just don't know what role they're both going to play with, the Champions League as well. And ideally, I wouldn't mind either option in my team. Maybe in a couple of game weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move over to Arsenal versus Leicester. Now, a lot of us are looking to either triple up or even double up on Arsenal. First question, I guess I'll go Chaza with this one, given the Arsenal expertise. Arsenal double defense or double attack?
First of all, I'm not much of an expertise, to be fair. I'm just out there to try and give what I feel is the best possible answer. As it stands, it'll probably be double Arsenal, because the more consistent attacker right now, even as we showed over weekend in Odegaard's absence, was Bukayo Saka. And he's in a similar price point to Foden, KDB. And because Saka just keeps being consistent, he seems to be the second more expensive best premium midfield option, behind probably Masala, but he's 3 million more. And just for what Arsenal's defence is worth, they're worth to just continue on with them at the moment. And in addition, David Reyes, I think, he's just a save point machine as well, especially against tough sides. You just feel that you'll get more than a 2-pointer out of him every game.
Fair enough. Meera?
Yeah, I'm currently going. So I'm sure we'll get to our wildcard draft soon. Anyway, but bit of spoiler alert. I'm looking at sort of both options, but leaning towards double defense at the moment, just because the next 3 fixtures are looking really good. But also, I think it was only one season where I brought in Alisson in my side, and I think it was in my second season where Liverpool, or was it my first season? I can't remember now. Where they had a really decent, sort of go at the title, and Alisson was just getting really good save points and bonus point magnet as well, and so I only brought him in sort of halfway through the season, but then it meant I could forget about my keeper. And I feel like Raya is definitely that kind of a keeper. I mean, we saw that in him last season anyway. Arsenal's defense is fantastic. I've already had Havertz in the team anyway. So I have thought about having Havertz and Saka as my attack, and then just going with Gabriel there. But then, I was thinking, actually, maybe I just go with Raya and just kind of, play on the same tactics I used with bringing in Allison in my first season. So, yeah, that way I don't have to think about my goalkeeper.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm also currently leading towards the double defense now. Like you, I've also had Havertz in my team. I've sold him though to try and like play the price rises. So now he's kind of not an option for me to get back because I lost that 0.1. The
I've got a question just about this double Arsenal attack, because it can really boil down to if managers decide to get rid of Mo Salah.
Yep.
Is it worth trying to get rid of Mo Salah before a run of fixtures, which some may say it's not the most greenest on grass, but season on season he keeps delivering? Is it worth taking him out as a result of having an Arsenal asset in attack, which takes away from that double defense?
For me, it's the losing Salah to maybe like Saka, right? In this example, it's the what you can do with that remaining 2.5 as well, because that remaining 2.5 allows me to upgrade my defense. Like I can not only get like a Gabriel, but I can also push to a Trent Alexander-Arnold if I really wanted to. So I think that's like combination of being able to upgrade the defense is what kind of benefits. Now we still don't know about Saka because Arteta is never going to tell us exactly what's the situation in terms of injuries with Saka and all of that. So there's always that question mark over Saka. But I thought like like you said, right? Salah could still deliver. I won't be surprised if Salah scores a hat-trick this week as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just that the combination of that amount of money I've sold, that can help to improve my defense. I'm hoping that the combination of all of those can outscore Salah plus maybe a 4.5 effectively. So that's kind of where I'm thinking whether hopefully it'll pay out. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's at the moment my thinking behind it.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more to that as well, like I just very quickly opened up my current team, and so I had Havertz for quite a long time up front, along with Isak, and I, did a bit of a switch around. So, game week 4, I brought in João Pedro, which has been an absolute disaster for me, in the last 2 sort of game weeks anyway, and then I brought in Trent as well, so taking out Quansah. So I had Havertz in there along with Salah. And I had obviously Quansah, but I also had Pedro Porro, Gabriel, and Robinson in my defense. So it can be done, and I think it's fairly reasonable to have Havertz in there, not have Saka, have Mo in there, still have Haaland, and have Isak up front as well. So, I'm like really front loaded there on the forwards, but it meant that the rest of my side was a little bit weak. Like, fair enough, I had Jota in the side as well, but then I had the rest of my defense was not looking very good. Henderson just got a 9-pointer, but generally speaking, that was not looking good either. So going into the next run of fixtures, my team is fairly unbalanced, and that's the main reason why, like, switching out Salah for Saka and then spreading the funds and just having a little bit more flexibility. I even went back to thinking about it from a price points point of view. So do I bring in a 6.5 and that limits me with which way I can go? Or do I sort of bring in Diaz into my wildcard and know that I can upgrade not that much more upwards for a Foden, or downgrade as well and still have some money coming back in? So it gives me a little bit more flexibility to work with. And so that was the only reason why. But, my heart's not letting me get rid of Salah, of course, like that's my Liverpool bias as well. I was just seeing like Shiraz's message in the chat as well, who said, about bringing in Onana over Raya. And I was like, I just can't bring myself to do that. But I can see why, United supporters would also have a bit of that, bias there as well. So yeah, it's a really tricky one. I think this is where, like, I feel like FPL have got their price points really well done, this season, because it just means that we can play a whole bunch of combination of players, and even with the captaincy as well. So just on that point, I wasn't going to be captaining Salah this game week. And if you do have him, then sure, that he's a great captaincy option, but that wasn't on my mind, especially with how Newcastle are playing and how Haaland is playing as well. So if I don't captain Saka, I'm probably captaining Haaland.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's kind of what has like even forced people a bit more because like Haaland's just on really great form and Newcastle isn't what we thought they would be. Um, so that has kind of played into the parts of like everyone going, okay, cancel Salah as well because that's high amount of money you're paying and you're not going to captain him, so that kind of justifies it. But like I think Havertz will still do really good. Like Nehal has put in the chat, I think he will get the goals. I think I'll go back to Havertz at a certain point in time. But for now, I'm just happy with the double defense of Rea, Gabriel, and just like Saka in the midfield spot.
Mm.
Leicester, do we think Jamie Vardy is like a decent third striker option or not fully convinced?
I did consider him,
Yeah.
I must admit. Like my early planning, I was looking at the fixture run between, I think it was 7 to 10, or 7 to 9, and thought, yeah, that looks really good and quite tasty. Wouldn't mind that. But for whatever reason, I don't think Vardy is playing the way that, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think maybe he'll get the chances, maybe. But I just feel like for a little bit more, you're able to then get, a Chris Wood potentially. And there's a couple more options like hovering around that kind of price point now.
Fair enough.
Speaking of Chris Wood, it was something new that did occur over the weekend in him taking Forest penalty.
Yeah.
Not Morgan Gibbs
Gibbs-White.
White, who I don't want to talk about.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because you have him in your team, don't you?
Oh.
I did think of you.
Well, why? Thank you for thinking of me.
Sorry.
Oh well. Moving on.
Chat,
Okay.
can we get an amen just in the comments? Is that all right?
Indeed. For Sir Morgan Gibbs-White. But yeah, I think Vardy is maybe last week would have been a nice option, but this week I'm like a bit more against it now. I feel like it's still not too bad, but chances aren't really coming per se. Having said that, I think let's move to the Brentford game because this is where a lot of people are thinking about certain players. I've owned Flecken and he did well, decently well. But obviously, Brentford defensively still are a slight issue. There are players in defense like Vanderberg or Collins, and people are like deciding where exactly would they go for a defender because Vanderberg, like if they don't play a back five and they play a back four, then he's in a bit of a problem. Maybe Collins could be a better option, or even Pinnock. Depends on who actually plays in that back four. Then up front, you've got Brian Mbeumo, who looks to be the talisman now. Unfortunately, Wisa is out injured because if he was fit, I think he would have been like that first name on the team sheet effectively for all the wildcarders and third place, like third striker, given his price range. And now there's questions, like there's discussions over like Carvalho, Shad was another player who was mentioned last week. I haven't watched enough like Carvalho and Shad to be able to give my opinions on Brentford for those two, but I've seen enough of Brian Mbeumo and owned him last season as well. After removing him from the never buy list the season before, because he was there for the amount of times he was hitting the post. But yeah, what do you guys think Brentford overall? Chaza?
Yeah, so I forgot to turn my microphone back on. I apologise. They're an intriguing side, Brentford, because I feel there's just more responsibility for Mbeumo, which I do feel he's still able to deliver. I think it's a great opportunity for Shard and Carvalho. I think at times within Brentford's fixture run, it might actually be the differentials outshining the obvious Brian. So, look, outside of Mbeumo, because he seems to be a Twitter essential right now, the other's a bit of a wait and see, but with a bit more intrigue on top. But I have a really, really good run.
Yeah, West Ham, Wolves, United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, and that's just the first 6. Yeah. Meera, thoughts, Brentford?
Yeah, I guess Mbeumo was also on my never buy list. Also brought him in anyway last season, did all right, and currently drafting him into my wildcard as well. I think it's the pens, isn't it? And he's been, I think after Tony's left, he's been playing that, sort of bit more advanced role. And I think with Wissa being out as well, yeah, like you say, Chaz, like a bit more responsibility and a bit more kind of, forward positioning that he's got it just seems like he's in all the right sort of places, right? Carvalho, I quite like. I think like he was a Liverpool player. I just gutted that he didn't get as much kind of chance to play for Liverpool. But he's a really good player as well. So for 4.8, I don't mind that as a like a rotating bench option. I think if you can go an extra 0.3 mil from Winks or Dibbling now, which seems to be on in many drafts as well as the 4.5 option, then Carvalho's not a bad shout. Like he's not necessarily been performing as well as he has in the the cup games, and so I think from that point of view I don't mind it, and I reckon like with the good fixture run that they have, he'll probably be decent. Defensively, I had started eyeing up a couple of options. I think like Flecken, obviously from a goalkeeping option, seems like the pick. I think between Flecken and Sells, I think the 4.5 sort of picks. Even Sanchez, I'm seeing popping up now, like at sort of 4.6-ish now. But I decided not to go Flecken. But then when you think about sort of the defensive options, Pinnock was coming up in conversation. I was chatting to Ryan, from Better FPL, and he was saying that Pinnock is a good shout. But yeah, Collins, I think, has been popping up as well. So it seems like we just don't know that much about the defensive options there. And I think, is it Van den Berg?
Yeah.
Yeah, Van den Berg.
Let me
yeah.
check.
VDB. We'll just
Yeah,
call him VDB.
Vandenberg. Yeah.
Yeah, I think VDB at sort of that 4 million is brilliant, but is he like? Then you've got the similar sort of problem to Lewis as well, right? So, will he play? Won't he play? So I feel like if the 4 million option is maybe like a Greaves in our sides, then would you want to go for another 4 million option in a Brentford player when they do have good fixtures? So do you just upgrade and just go for a Collins or a Pinnock?
Especially if you're like trying to punt on a Rico Lewis and then trying to have two 4.0s as well, add to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the other Rico, like Rico Henry? Like I
Yeah.
don't know what's happening with him either. So yeah, he's a good player.
But yeah, I for me, I've gone only with Brian Mbeumo for the moment. Just because like I don't really know exactly which defender I want there, and because I've gone rare, I didn't think about Flecken as a goalkeeper option. Even though I still think like if I wasn't wildcarding, or if I was wildcarding, I was going for 4.5s, I still don't mind Flecken as an option. He does make a lot of saves. Only problem is that defensive data for Brentford is never really that great. So the amount of clean sheets that they will keep isn't as high. So you're mostly expecting save points. It's a primary source of points, effectively.
Yeah.
Then the next one was West Ham. West Ham a slightly odd team because they've made a lot of signings. I thought they'll perform really well. Hasn't looked as much, like they haven't clicked as much yet. Their good fixture run doesn't start just yet. I think it starts like somewhere game week 8, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, game week 7 effectively. Like Brentford is also not a bad stop for West Ham, but like I don't know. I haven't seen that many Jared Bowens in drafts. Or West Ham spoken about as much. The only main West Ham player I see a lot is Fabianski, and that's purely because he's a 4.0 non-playing goalkeeper. Thoughts, West Ham?
I heard from, it would have been Lopetegui's post-game press conference or probably from some other fans, is that I think our morale's a bit down for Malmö, which is a bit of a concern within the team. It just seems that the way they conduct themselves, the way they lose the ball, they're far more susceptible than they usually would be, even if they're facing an upwards trajectory themselves. But it's probably Bowen, and he's also a wait and see, but I do feel he's had a content type of start to the season.
Fair enough.
I actually had someone on Twitter ask me, like, with my, just kind of dump of drafts that, and I guess, like, I should also mention the drafts that I was making were very much like what I would consider for my own team, not just kind of churning out drafts for the sake of churning out drafts. And I didn't have Bowen, of course, in any of them. But someone did ask, are we sleeping on Bowen? Can't remember what they said exactly, but yeah, they were asking about Bowen, like, why isn't Bowen, appearing in any drafts? And they've just not really shown up. And one of the I guess the FPL philosophies I've been trying to adopt and sort of align to is not just thinking about a isolated player and thinking about the team as a whole as well. And I think, like, just West Ham as a whole haven't really sort of clicked. So yeah, while in isolation, he's a good player, but he's not really sort of switched on either. So yeah, not really feeling any of the West Ham players at the moment.
Fair enough. Okay. We'll move to Chelsea versus Brighton. Pete has been saying this for a couple of weeks now. Jackson will become good. He'll improve this season, and he's showing the performances. The only problem I have with Chelsea, even though now I've also started considering Jackson, the only problem I have with Chelsea is the amount of players that they have, that you can bring on 50 to 60 million type players and they're still equally good in terms of, like, quality. And that is a bit of a problem if you were to spend like 10.5 million on Palmer and you see him coming off at 60 minutes and you're like, what in the world is happening? But they still have two good home fixtures for the next two. So I've considered at the moment as a striker option, second striker option to pair with Haaland. I've considered Jackson as one option out of a couple strikers that I've been looking at. Palmer, I've seen a few people have Palmer in their drafts as well, and I'm not against it because still, end of the day, a really good player. As Pete says, here for the Jackson love. After me giving Jackson so much hate last season, comparing him to Darwin Núñez, I apologize, Jackson. I wasn't aware of your game, but but here we are. What do you guys think, Chelsea?
It's either Jackson or nothing.
Okay.
In my eyes. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere else.
Meera?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Jackson as well. So similar to João Pedro. So beginning of last season, brought in João Pedro. Right, yeah. So right from game week 1, didn't work out. Just rage transferred him out and brought in Jackson. That didn't work out either. And I was just like, these guys are just not working for me. What did I do this season? I brought in João Pedro game week 4 and didn't work out for game week 4. Came on at 80-something minutes in game week 5. Got me a 1-pointer. It meant that I didn't get Harry Winks' 2 points, which probably would have given me a better rank boost. Really disappointed. And here I am eyeing up Jackson for my wildcard draft. And I'm like, am I just tempting fate here where I'm seeing a pattern and maybe he should just stay firmly on my no buy list? But he has looked different as well. Although João Pedro was getting returns as well, right? So I don't know. I'm definitely on the fence on this one. I do agree that there's 2 really good fixtures coming up, so it just feels like an opportunity to jump onto Jackson at the very least. Palmer, I feel like whilst he's probably appropriately priced if he was still playing in the same position as he was last season, I just don't feel like he's worth the money when you're competing with like Saka and I mean, KDB, if he hadn't have got injured as well, he was just looking really good. And I think, like, if he hadn't gotten injured right now, I probably would be drafting in KDB and Saka into my side alongside, Haaland as well. So, Palmer, not so much. Jackson, definitely sort of considering. But at the same time, I'm thinking, do I bother going there with Jackson? It's funny how like past experiences can just stick with you as well. And I haven't been playing FPL for a very long time. And so even though like there's a couple of experiences that I've had with Jackson, he's just been very deeply, in the list of the no buy list as well. So like, I don't know if I'll actually go there when push comes to shove and the deadline fast approaches.
Fair enough. Chelsea defense they rotate decently. I think with Forest, if I'm not mistaken. There's like a decent rotation pairing for them. And I've seen people go for Sanchez as a goalkeeper option. Colville is another one, but like again, like Chaza said, I haven't really been thinking about Chelsea defense as well. Like I've only thought of just Palmer, Jackson, and Palmer. Even I'm because 10.5. I'm like I don't have the money for that. I've lost so much team value on like the first 5 game
Konsa.
weeks. Yeah, Konza, Lewis Hall, Isaac. Yeah. So I'm like I don't have the money to go there, unfortunately. But yeah, what do you guys think Chelsea defense?
I just feel there's other better performing sides as of now. I think Chelsea have had a really pleasing last fortnight, but when the going gets tough, Maresca may be more susceptible to rotate his players a bit more often. And if Chelsea are still competing in other competitions, that's how I see it.
Yep, fair enough. All right, we'll move to Brighton. Now, I think they're bottom. Yes, they're bottom of the ticker. And we've seen photos circulating of Joe Pedro having crutches in his background, so that we don't know how long he's going to be out for. One player who doesn't get enough love is Danny Welbeck. I'll tell you that. He continues to deliver. Now takes set pieces as well. I think he used to take set pieces. We just didn't notice because, again, like you said, he doesn't get enough love. But he's performing, whereas the others haven't really been up to the task. Like Mitoma started off well, has quieted down a bit. Minte is just now rotation problem. Do you guys think Brighton still have something to offer for the next couple of weeks, FPL wise, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think Chelsea away and Spurs at home, fixtures wise, they're probably not as bad as it looks to be perceived by other managers, because Brighton will take a game on. It may leave it open at the back in terms of Chelsea's defensive end to counter attack. Spurs at home, I think, is a really good fixture because, let's face it, this guy can't defend for his life.
Where did you get that book?
Oh, look, I wasn't. The story was I just bought 2 books, and this was one of them end of last week. So,
is it so that you can like put it up on every stream and sort of go, this guy, mate?
Well, I've got to be honest with you, mate. It could be the case, yeah.
I should
Mate.
get that. All right. But I mean, you're true. And like the next fixture after that is Newcastle and then Wolves.
That's so funny. I mean,
it was just one time.
It was just like, here's one I prepared earlier.
Especially on the ticker masala, yeah, you're spot on.
Indeed. But I mean, you're not wrong. And like you look at them from an attacking point of view, until game week 9, it's not too bad. It's just trying to get the correct midfielders from Brighton maybe might be a tricky bit.
Yeah, I think this is where the non-wildcarders are probably going to benefit the most. Like if you have Welbeck, then you're going to keep Welbeck. And I think Nihal just in the chat also mentioned that he'd probably be on pens as well. So yeah, I think like if you've got your Brighton players, like I know like there's a probably even goalkeeper or like Dunk. I've seen Lewis Dunk in a lot of drafts as well. Actually, in fact, in wildcard drafts, I've seen Lewis Dunk as well. And I think maybe it's just to plan ahead because there's a couple of good fixtures in between, and so maybe it's sort of beyond 11. Not sure I'd be thinking that far ahead.
No.
I've been operating like 3 fixtures at a time, 5 at the most.
Yeah, fair enough. True. I haven't even thought like Game Week 12 wildcard. When that comes, that will come.
Yes,
but yeah,
that's far away.
Yep. I need to get Pras for that. He's thinking like way ahead.
Yeah, we need his helicopter view.
Yeah. But like Brighton. I think if you for non-wildcarders, it's probably someone. If you guys have Welbeck, you probably keep him. If you have Joe Pedro and you aren't wildcarding this week, what would you do?
Sit on the fence.
Are you like so? What would make you sell him? Depending on what you get from the press conference. Or it's
See,
just
this is
like
a
not
great
worth it.
question, Brian. You've
Yeah.
just bamboozled me on this fine Wednesday night, and I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I don't think it's worth doing a sideways switch to Welbeck. So I think you just hold out with him because there's other pressing issues within the team.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, you either hold him, or you do what I basically did and said that he's dead to me, and so I
Yeah.
got rid of him, very quickly. But also, I'm on a wild card,
Yeah.
so it was easier for me to do that. But if I had him and I wasn't on a wild card, I'd probably just hold and deal with the other problems I have in the team. In fact, before going into game week 6, and Chaz, when we were chatting on Friday as well, I wasn't convinced about playing my wild card. I was on the fence about it still. And I had, transfers going into game week 6. And so I thought, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to just make these couple of transfers and everything will be fine? Because I did roll a transfer as well. So I would have had 2 going into game week 6. Yeah, I think I had other, my team had other plans.
Fair enough. Okay. We'll go to Everton versus Crystal Palace because Everton are another team that people are looking at. Brentford did play a midweek game. He played 90 minutes, I believe, so he should be fine. Mikalenko, I think, is back in training as well, so we should get more positive news from Sean Dyche on that. And I've said from the start of the season, I'm like, when Brentford is fit, then I look at Everton defense. Until then, I don't look at Everton defense. And now he's fit. I'm thinking of Everton defense. On the other hand,
do you
go
want
ahead.
to hear a worse proposition than what you've just mentioned there?
Okay, go ahead.
How about having had them since game week 1?
You did basically what everyone did last season as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
And then people like me come at like the middle of the season and then get Everton defense.
Yeah, people just vibe at the right time, and you're one of them, Chatbox. And up against a team which I know we'll touch base shortly. This is a very tricky side from wildcarders against wildcarders, whether you hold on to them or you jump on them or you get rid of them altogether.
So Crystal Palace, another team. I think Nehal mentioned about Crystal Palace as well. But we'll first we'll finish Everton. Defense, Everton defense. What are you thinking? Meera on a wild card.
I very reluctantly started a couple of drafts with Mikalenko in there. Now, I'm not crazy about it. I think just Everton defense, I'm not crazy about it at all. It's nice that Branthwaite is playing, getting the minutes. I think he played in the under 21s or something.
So.
No,
Yeah.
was it something like that? Yeah. That's really good. I think he's priced at like 4.8, which isn't too bad. Would be tempted there, but I don't know. I feel like I need to see more. This is the downside of playing your wild card earlier on in the season, right? We haven't seen enough from some of these teams, and Everton playing against like slightly sort of on par with them sides, I guess. Like, it's probably the most polite way of saying it. Yeah, I reckon like we might see a different type of Everton defense. Like, not forgetting that Pickford got the Golden Glove, didn't he? No, or he got a lot of clean sheets or something.
Yeah, he was
not
very
Golden
close
Glove. Sorry,
he was very close to it, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was largely to do with the Branthwaite as well in the team, right? And so, yeah, and who else is out? Who's the other guy? Tarkowski as well.
He's back. Yeah, he was out at the start as well. Tarkowski and Brentford were both out at the start, which was even worse to get Everton defense. That's the thing.
Yeah, so I feel like you could probably lean on like a Mikalenko at 4.3 just because he's 4.3. And because we haven't seen that much of Everton, and I think the fixture run between 8 especially, so 8 they've got Ipswich, they've then got Fulham, Southampton after that. So for that kind of fixture run in general, we might see a better defensive side from them. Who knows? We don't know. So at 4.3, where you probably leave him on the bench and occasionally play, and from a minutes point of view is quite secured as well. Yeah, I guess.
We're kind of going on like past history of what we think Sean Dyche teams usually play like, basically. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's worth the punt at 4.3. It's not a bad choice, but yeah, that's basically all.
But I'm not crazy about it. Yeah.
No, yeah, same. Chaza?
about Everton.
Yeah, defense.
Well, I don't really have much to say if I've held one of them since game week
Yeah,
one.
fair enough. Never mind.
Yeah, let's go next team.
Okay.
I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yep.
I'm not great at everything. This is one of them.
No, yeah, fair enough. Attack Calvert-Lewin as one option. McNeil is another one who's been spoken about quite a bit as well. Those are the only two players I would say at the moment. I have Calvert-Lewin in a draft right now. I'm a bit careful that I know Calvert-Lewin's injury history, and I'm like, touch wood, nothing happens. But he's looked okay for now. So I'm willing to punt on it because of the fixtures, purely because of the fixtures, and then see what happens after that. But I'm well aware of his injury history.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
I also did a draft.
Yeah.
And then Wood became viable option. And then I sort of, just jumped off of him. I'll be honest, I even looked at Wood and DCL as the two forward picks as well, alongside Haaland, and then that gave me a bit more money to work with in the midfield, especially because like my defense is fairly loaded at the moment. I feel like I've gone the other way again. I'm not giving much love to my midfield. I've gone from a very heavy on the forward sort of picks, and now I'm looking at a bit more heavy, like on the defensive picks this time round. But no, I just don't feel like it's a great pick. I reckon he'll get the return, like he'll get some returns as well if he stays fit. But are we looking at sort of really big hauls from him?
No, not really. Maybe a return every other game or every 1 in 3 games kind of thing is what I'm expecting at best, potentially. And I think I'll add McNeil as well to this as in terms of returns. I think McNeil's data compromises mostly of like XA in terms of assist potential, and given that he's on set pieces as well. But like, yeah, that's basically all I'll add.
But Chatbox, what about XC these days? What are his expected celebrations like?
1 in every 3 games, like I said. Returns equals celebrations 1 in every 3.
Okay, fair enough. Right.
The other team, Palace. Now, I don't know how Man United didn't score a single goal against Palace. If you say peppered the goal, basically did everything apart from finish. I don't know how we I had Dean Henderson on my bench with the 9 point. I'm like, here we are. But like yeah, and I started flicking because I was like, there's no way that like the Palace have been so bad, and they're still pretty bad defensively. I'm going to tell you that. But like, yeah, here it is. It is what it is. I should have just thought, yeah, we're not good at attack. Should have just started it. But anyways, I digress. Palace, what do you think? Eze, people who have Eze, what to do with Eze? Go ahead, Chaza.
Hold.
I think
sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's all good. And thank you for just saying it as it is there. Yeah, I'm just holding, I feel. For those wildcarding, majority probably wouldn't have him, but probably gives you a reason not to wildcard, in which you could probably, his stats are still pretty good. I feel it's just being very unfortunate.
Fair enough. He had a really good chance against United as well. Just missed the post by a tiny bit, but yeah, really good option. The thing with Eze is like the haul will come. You just have to kind of take the 2-pointers with it as well. That comes every week mostly. But yeah, the data is good, like you said. All right.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you've got to hold him. In fact, in a couple of drafts, I thought what it would look like to just have Eze, just because like they've got a couple of good fixtures coming up still, and yeah, I feel like he's due as well. So I know they've got Liverpool in between, like game week 7, but after that they've got Forest, Spurs, Wolves, Fulham in between. So between 8 and 11, which isn't terrible, right? And so he's due a haul of some sorts or some returns. Yeah, I think you hold him.
There's a question with regards to Mateta. Now, he took penalties, or he took the last penalty for Crystal Palace. You could say he's probably still on penalties for Palace. we maybe give him a bit more love in terms of like that striker spot, or like is it the same case where if you have Eze or if you have Mateta, do you hold as well?
He's at an awkward price point,
Yes,
isn't he?
that's the one
Mateta's
problem.
like 7.5, or he might be 7.4 now. I'm not sure. I don't think he would have gone down in price. I'm not sure.
7.4.
But yeah,
yeah.
it's just such an awkward price point, right? Like you then think, yeah, I mean, for a team that's not necessarily, I mean, he's got some good attacking returns there. Did he get a hat trick or something
Last
recently?
season.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, he scored 2 against Leicester.
Okay,
Nice.
brace. So you got a brace. But I don't know, at 7.5, I'd be thinking about, can I spend a little bit more and get Jackson for the next 2? Or I'd be thinking, do I just bring in Solanke now? Would I want to hold Mateta and hope that, he's still on pens? I think it sounds like he's sharing them with Eze at the moment.
Fair enough.
Awkward price point, I think.
Yep, fair enough. Is there anything to add on Mateta?
Well, so Mateta was really good at the Olympics, and Nicholas Jackson, he's good at walking backwards. He's good at dancing for social media purposes. He's good at scoring goals. So I probably know which one I'm. Yes, that's it, man. Yes, I think Jackson's a better option at the moment.
Yep, fair enough.
Not for those reasons listed.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, we'll move over. Let's want to speed this up a bit more.
I'm so sorry for not taking this seriously.
No, it's fine. Forest versus Fulham. Forest defensively look really good. Chris Woods, now Meera has mentioned that she's looking at Chris Woods as well. Fulham, on the other hand, Emil Smith-Rowe, scoring points, returning points, good player. I still remember when I owned him when he was at Arsenal. I think first season, him and Saka, they did really well. Robinson from Fulham, I mean, I think Robinson's time has kind of come to an end because the fixtures are turning for Fulham. That's the one thing to mention. Fixtures are turning. Jimenez is a cheap striker, but again, fixtures are turning, which kind of puts people off that. But Smith-Rowe is a question where I'm kind of deciding. I'm like, maybe I'll keep him on my draft, is what I'm thinking, because just I look at that other 5.5, 5.6 options, and I'm like, oh, you have Semenyo, but it's 2 good games, and then after that, slightly harder run. McNeil, we mentioned earlier, and then we got Smith-Rowe as well. I'm like, I mean, he's getting the points. Fulham are still a pretty good team as well, I would say. So I'm thinking of keeping him, but what do you guys think?
I took him out. I really like him though. That was another sort of after Salah, probably the other player that I was very reluctant to remove from my team. He's just been really good. I think between that 50-50 pick between Muniz and ESR, I feel like I picked the right one out of those options. And yeah, I feel quite sad about removing him as well. But then I'm thinking, what can I do with that extra maybe 1 million as well? So it depends like how you want to line up your formation, right? So I'm thinking about 3-4-3 at the moment. And we'll probably mostly play 3-4-3 if I can, with the option of, benching Wood occasionally. But that then means, do I want a 5.5 mil player sitting on my bench, when I'm playing a Rodgers? And in that case, I may as well just kind of downgrade to a 4.5 and then just have that as a bench option. Also, we'll get the minutes as well. So, and then spend that extra 1 million somewhere else. So that's the compromise I ended up making, because I wanted to play 3 up front. So I think if you're going to go, 3-5-2, then yeah, sure, keep him like that. That's a really good option.
Fair enough. Chaza?
Well, she may have been on the right side of it. I was certainly on the wrong side of a 50-50 decision. I think Anthony Robinson looks good. He's probably done enough for now. Smith-Rowe could be in, could be out, but I've never owned him. And then, Rodrigo Muniz. Why don't we just talk about Wolves Liverpool? Does that sound good?
Okay. Before we go,
I just don't want to talk about that person anymore.
you should go to Q and ask for the receipts.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go from Fulham to Forest just before we go to Wolves and Liverpool. Forest defensively, Oleana is a player that a lot of people have mentioned, and he's good for bonus points as well. What's the centre half's name?
Not Aina.
No, he's the fullback, right? Ola Aina.
Milenkovic?
Yeah, him. So he's a set piece threat, and if you look
Yeah.
at like the defenders in
looked
terms
good.
of so he is one option that maybe can be considered, but I guess people would go for the fullback. Alex Moreno is also there, but I wouldn't go there because I always had this worry on like Nico Williams is still a pretty good player as well. He could play a few games, and then you're like, oh, I don't know what to do basically with like a player who's not playing. And then there's Searles as a goalkeeper option as well, if anyone really wanted to go. What do you guys think overall? Forest defense?
Very good.
I've thought about it. Yeah, like especially Aina. Yeah, Aina. Yeah, definitely sort of has been on. Yeah, my couple of drafts. I think I brought him in as well. Sells. I think like when I wasn't thinking about Raya, I was thinking if I don't go Flecken, that was also when I was looking at Wissa and Mbumo before Wissa didn't become, didn't. Yeah, it's just out of the game at the moment. But yeah, I don't mind Souls actually.
Fair enough. Yep.
And no Gibbs White, as well. I just saw that message from Colm.
We're not going to talk about Gibbs White here.
I feel like we're picking all the wrong topics for Chaz.
I know, but
if you guys pick all the wrong ones, you're playing it strong. That's why running strong played really well.
But Forest defense good, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Wolves, Liverpool. Let's move.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mascara injured out. I think he was the only Wolves player I was looking at. For maybe game week 9 onwards, they have a really good run that's coming, but at the moment, a bit more of a harder fixture run. Matheus Cunha could be maybe someone we look at later down the line. For the moment, just to have a watch and keep an eye out for. But Wolves overall not looking great. Liverpool, on the other hand, flying effectively, like players are performing. The only thing is it's basically trying to fit 4 attacking players into 2 spots at this point. With Salah getting most of the minutes, and here we are selling Salah. Defensively, they look solid. Trent has gotten a return. Maybe should have had more returns by now, to be honest. As a non-trained owner, I'm a bit. I've avoided significant damage to my rank by him not getting certain assists that Diego Jota maybe should have put in the back of the net at the start of the season.
Too soon, Ryan.
Yeah, I know, but don't worry. I've bought Trent into a draft now, so I'm like hoping everything turns out to be better. I've got Diaz as cover to Salah, if you can even call it that. I don't know. What do you guys think, Liverpool?
Great options all around. I think Diaz has been. I did feel he would deliver, but I didn't feel he would deliver as massively as he has within the first 5 weeks. And it's a true credit to him. I think his role certainly suits under Arne's slot. And for Jota, he just decides not to play a minute. There goes that dream, as the man would say.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some rotation for sure. Like that's something that we can expect. And I think from a minutes point of view as well, can't see Diaz playing maximum minutes, and we've seen that already. I think Diaz has been a bit of a surprise for everyone. I think he's just cutting in a little bit more as well. I think he's just looking really, really good, and he's been playing really well for country as well. So I feel like similar to you, Ryan, I'm thinking bringing in Diaz, not necessarily as cover for Salah, because I don't think anyone really covers Salah. Even like I've got Trent drafted in as well. So I'm looking at them as independent picks at the moment. So Trent alone looks amazing. I think when I picked Quansah at the beginning of the season, I had a lot of deep regret, and that was mostly because I ended up going with Havertz. So if I hadn't have gone Havertz, I probably would have gone Trent. But I wanted some. That's when I was thinking about cover, for Saka. I was thinking about Havertz as cover for Saka. But I just feel like Trent's just playing so well at the moment. And so independently, he he was one of the first names that came, into my side when I was looking at my wild card. Diaz only came in a little bit later because I was happy to go without any other Liverpool attack and just stick with having Trent there for some clean sheet, but also some of the attacking potential that he has as well. I had Jota in the team, and I was expecting more from Jota just because I think we found out quite earlier on that he played really well during international matches during the Euros, and so it just made sense like to bring in Jota, and then obviously Darwin got benched, and so Jota was the starting player. But now that Darwin's got a goal as well, and I can just see him like his fitness seems to be up again. I wouldn't say sort of as sort of returning consistently just yet. Similar to what Jackson, like they've been compared to each other as well. So I'm not going to try and compare them at the moment, but I can see Darwin getting more minutes. And so I think with UCL, the Cup, and then, the Premier League as well, I just see a little bit more rotation. But given Diaz is on form right now for the next two fixtures, I feel like he's a really good pick to have at the moment. Again, you've got to look at them independently rather than Diaz being cover for Salah, and it's just going, actually those two fixtures are really good, and so it's not really covering Salah, it's more he's on form, they're good fixtures, do you keep him? And then at a price point you can go downwards quite easily as well.
Yep, fair enough. Here's a quick question, because what now? Trent is one option. Not everyone will be able to get to Trent, unfortunately. It depends on what other players you're getting. Robertson, what are your thoughts? And also, I would add to this Konate as well, because he's 5.1, and it's a way more cheaper route into that Liverpool defense. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind Robertson pick. I think that's a decent shout as well. I just think that from an attacking potential point of view, just if you can find another million, if you can, like you just get more out of having Trent. Konate's like one game away from being injured as well. Like he's what? So hear me out. I socialized an idea earlier today when I was I think I was chatting to Ash FPL Crisis, and I said, crazy idea. Do we just bring in Quanta at 4.1 and just leave him, like just play him every time and just hope that he plays, because he's now 4.1.
No,
it's bound to
3.9.
happen. Could he drop even more? I don't know.
He might still drop even more, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no.
I know. But when you're thinking about like Mikalenko, and you're thinking about, I mean, yeah, look, fair that they're getting more minutes, of course. But like with Konate, I just feel like there is that risk there as well.
Okay, fair enough. That throws one of my drafts out of the window. Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Chaza?
Yeah, I mean, so I lost track of what we're talking about for a moment because we've still. Sorry, is it still Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think Robertson is probably a fair shout in terms of a pick. It was probably a better pick than Trent within the first month of the season. But I think Trent's 11 point really epitomised everything and why he's worth 5 million extra.
Yep.
And then you got 5 million, and then you got 4 million. So it's all 1 million tier brackets at that club.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Ipswich versus Villa. I think Ipswich, a lot of people have Greaves in there. And that's basically it. If you can get to Leif Davis, don't really mind it. But I still think
Greaves. It's a good game for Leif Davis to get an attacking return again.
This one.
I think so.
True. Could be. Yeah, fair enough.
But will I go there? No. It's just... Yeah, just
maybe.
fiddling around.
Yep,
it's like looking at all the food in front of you, but you're just not sure if you're going to go there. So I'm not in the food analogies, but you get the picture.
Yeah, fair enough. Aston Villa, on the other hand, I mean, Rodgers finally returned a haul.
Expected celebrations through the roof and actual goals.
Indeed.
So good.
John Duran is like, yeah, man, I'll just come off the bench. Maybe we should just look at John Duran as a third striker.
I know. 20 minutes from him, and
just continues to score goals off the bench. This could be a good fixture for Watkins, and I've been thinking about him as well as an option, which unfortunately that required sacrificing Trent, which now is no longer a consideration. after a Liverpool discussion. But yeah, I think Watkins really good option. Especially for non-wildcarders or those who wildcarded in like game week 4 or something and have Watkins. This could be a really good fixture.
Yep, agree. I was thinking about the UCL. I keep forgetting that Villa are now, in the Champions League, and I don't know how they're going to sort of manage that. Right, it's first time for them. Is it first time ever? I'm not sure.
After a long time.
After a long time,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I think like it's going to be interesting to see how they rotate as well and how they manage, the onslaught of like fixtures and. I think they're still in the cup as well. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, look, Watkins is living rent free in my mind at the moment as well. Like where occasionally I'm thinking about, do I bring him in? And then I like drop the third forward spot down to like I don't know, like a Stewart or something from Southampton. So yeah, I'm not feeling good about doing that though, so it sort of restricts me. I feel like it restricts the side that I really want. So I think there's certain players where I'm like, nah, I really want them in the team, and Watkins is not higher up on that list at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. I won't talk about Villa defense. I just think they're not worth it, unfortunately. Even though people have Konsa, it's just that they're not defending enough, I think, at the moment. Okay, I'll move over. United versus Spurs. We can't attack, but we can defend, from what it seems like. Spurs on the other hand, Chaza, do what you did. The man can't defend, but he can attack.
He's not going to be very handy on a lot of podcasts this season.
I know.
Oh yeah.
So what do you guys see from this game, or like in general, both of the teams? Like both of the teams have some decent fixtures coming up as well. Over the next couple of weeks. Then United improve from game week 8. They have a nice small fixture run. And then Spurs also not a bad fixture run from like I guess game week 7, you could say.
It's a good run for Dominic Solanke owners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll start with Spurs. Attack. Solanke good. Maddison, what do you think? He's on top of the charts, but
yeah, he'll probably get assists, I feel. I feel Maddison, even at the moment, is a better pick than Son. I don't feel Son has set that world on fire. You probably need to rely on Solanke to not be in the lineup, or the pair needing more time to gel.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that could be true. Like the more gelling part, because Solanke hasn't played enough games for Spurs yet because of the injury and whatnot. Pedro Porro. Now that's a big question mark because, like you said, they can't keep clean sheets. There's a problem. His attacking output.
Don't bench him. Field him.
Yeah, that's the thing. So if you have him in your team, you kind of have to start him. Because of the attacking output. Now his attacking output has kind of slightly reduced because of Kulusevski playing, or even Brennan Johnson playing on that right wing. So he's kind of been a bit more reserved compared to at the start of the season. So does that mean that we maybe don't consider him as much, or do you still think on a wild card he might be a good option?
I've taken him out.
Fair enough. Yep.
Yeah, I jumped straight there. Like I took him out mostly because he doesn't seem like he's on set pieces anymore either. So
yeah, because Maddison.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm hesitant. He's at really awkward price points. I feel like I've mentioned price points a lot in this podcast, but yeah, I feel like he's at an awkward price point as well. So 5.5, and he's gone up to like 5.6 now. I was quite happy to have him, in my side up till now, but now I'm like, well, do I keep him? Do I not keep him? There's just so many other options as well, and the positioning, I don't know, it's not great. Yeah, so not sure there, but Solanke definitely on my mind. And in fact, I think I drafted Jackson first, but I'm definitely thinking about, Jackson to Solanke over the next couple of game weeks anyway. So yeah, I quite like that. Son, completely agree. Doesn't seem to quite be playing how he had been playing. He's not really, kicked off really. Maddison, I feel like is just coming back on form. I think it's priced too high though. I think Maddison, it made sense last season or the season before when he really sort of, was it last season he came into Spurs? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Was it season before? Yeah, so he was playing really well. He was getting like regular returns, right? Like it was definitely between Madison and Kulusevski as well. Like most managers were going, and Kulusevski was like priced a little bit lower. But I think Madison 7.5. Not sure. Not until he really gets going again.
Yep.
I think around that 6.57 probably would have been better.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, that's Spurs. United, dare I ask? I guess I not.
I want to.
Yeah.
So I want to bring. I think given their fixtures, yes, it makes sense, right? There's like potential. Um, I feel like I got away with not having like a Rashford or a Bruno or Garnacho so
Bruno,
far.
yes.
Bruno
Sure,
definitely,
yeah.
but even Garnacho has been getting returns, and he's been in quite a few teams in my mini league, mostly because they're like lots of United supporters as well. So I've seen, yeah, and so I feel like I've gotten away with it to some extent, but I'm just not feeling the attack again. Like it on paper, it looks really good, and when you look at the fixtures, when you look at the data, it's like, yep, great. But then when you watch the match, you're like, oh, really?
I think the attack it hasn't clicked yet. I think there's still a lot of like waiting to see how it will click. I think the defense has improved though. That has been a notable improvement. We are not conceding as many shots as we do, compared to last season where it was just like a basketball game. Which which is why I'm kind of thinking about United defense slightly. Where I've toyed with the idea of like a Delete or Dalot as well, potentially one of those two. Because Delete had a really good header as well in the last game against Crystal Palace. So he could be one of those players who is on the end of like set pieces for United. And if they continue to improve defensively, I don't mind it come game week 8 potentially.
Yeah, which one would you go for? You have to sell it to me, Ryan.
I at the moment I'm leaning towards Delete because of the goal threat from set pieces. But if you look at Dalot, he's the more like chances created. I think he's created 6 chances, highest bonus points out of all defenders in FPL for the moment. It's just that the only thing I'm worried is when more and more games start happening. I'm not sure whether it'll be, and this depends on like when both our left backs get fit and come back, whether that's Malacia or Shaw. I don't know when they're gonna come back. Then I'm not sure whether it's Mazraoui who'll continue to play right back or whether Dalot will play or whether they'll just rotate. Whereas Delete, I'm a bit more comfortable of like, okay, this guy is just Ten Hag wants him, helps progress the play as well. So I'm a bit more comfortable with Delete than I am with Dalot, but I think Dalot has that obviously that upside from inverting fullback and attacking threat a bit more than Delete does.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen Mazraoui. Is it Mazraoui?
Yeah.
Is that how you say his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a lot of teams at the moment as well.
Yeah, but that's probably due to price, I would assume.
Okay.
Yeah. But like if you're looking for a slightly higher attacking upside, it's those two, Dalot or Delete for me. Yeah. But I think come game week 8, I won't be surprised that if Delete does well in this game because Spurs are always suspect to set pieces. And it could be a game that he does decently. But yeah.
Yeah,
that's
true.
all. Attacking wise, I'm not looking at the moment. They have to click, and until they click, I wouldn't think about it.
Did you say you had Bruno in your team?
No, I didn't have Bruno in my team.
Okay.
But I have toyed with the idea of having enough money in the bank to go, like you mentioned Diaz maybe downwards. I've thought of Diaz to a Bruno
slightly
as well.
Up.
Yeah. So I've toyed with that idea, but all depends on like certain other moves as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
Final game, Bournemouth versus Southampton. Semenyo is a massive pick for 2 game weeks. A lot of managers have him on a wild card. Diblin is the other 4.5 midfielder that he played well in the United game, got his goal in the last game. But that's all I would have to offer from Southampton. Bournemouth, Semenyo, maybe Tavernier or Clivert could be options. Ivan Listen, I am not looking at. He hasn't really lit the world up for me. So it's purely just Semenyo for me, mainly.
And he missed a pen as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So I don't know whether he'll get the next one or not, or who is going to take the next one. I'm not really sure. Could be Semenyo. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I think he's probably the only one. I forget that they've got Kepa in goal now.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
You go on FPL review and you ask you to build a wildcard draft, it'll put Kepa in there. For some
Does
reason.
it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know
gosh,
why.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it did for me. So I
Mm,
was like, wondering, maybe that's my team value. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't mind Semenyo for 2 fixtures, and then it's like a bit of a lull period, for them. Dibbling, I do have in my draft at the moment as well, just because 4.5, and I don't know how nailed on as well, and it's between like from a 4.5, it's between Winks and Dibbling, and I think when I asked the SideNet guys, I think Andrew came back and said Winks, just because like would probably a bit more reliable, but I don't know. I think like I don't mind maybe chasing the upside ever so slightly there with Dibbling.
Fair enough.
For
Chaza?
Dibbling, personally, it's still wait and see, but it is encouraging to see him get the starts. And for Bournemouth, I pretty much agree with the same on Semenyo.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat from Com. Is there really a big difference between Semenyo and Tavernier? Tavernier has really good numbers data-wise, but
Mm,
Not particularly.
no, and they're priced more or less the same as well,
yeah,
aren't they?
yeah.
Mm.
I just think Semenyo is just a bit more reliable, probably. Or takes more shots, so he has more chances to probably get something.
Mm. Yeah.
All right, that's the fixtures. Let's get straight into the drafts. We didn't really have to touch any of the passing maps this week, but let's go straight to Chaza.
Yeah, and can I be honest, Ryan? I'm only doing this just for the love of your own pod. Do you mind if I do my team and then I might actually head off to bed?
Yep,
Is that okay?
that is completely fine.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
we've been
just
going.
playing an honest card with you. I just don't want to fall asleep on your own pod.
That's fine. We've been going for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All good.
So yeah, just if you can read it out, and then I'll just like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. So starting in goal, don't ask me why I'm still here. Dean Henderson, but he got his 9-pointer. So speak of like Christmas presents. Alexander-Arnold, double-digit haul. What can I say? Robinson, who had a great fortnight, about a fortnight ago, not quite the Taylor Swift song we've been hoping for. Vardiol hasn't done much showing up this season. Jota definitely didn't decide to just show up last week. Morgan Rogers just came off the bench as a result of someone else not showing up. Eze's only shown up for 1 week. Masala is come in and just the 1 assist. João Pedro, say no more. Rodrigo Muniz, I'm just going straight to Erling Haaland. And then the bench is just full of flags.
So have you what have you taken from the conversation, like in terms of wildcarding?
Join us.
I think I may need to now, yeah. All right, so this is my 3 changes that I was thinking of.
Yep.
It was Gibbs White to Semenyo, Jota to Mbumo, and Vardiol to Gabriel. But once I get to that point, I'll still have Muniz, and probably with the intention to roll but then by the end of it, Fulham have got City away next week, and I'm thinking, is it really worth holding on to him for that long? So probably not. Is it worth holding on to? I mean, Barco may as well just go as well. I think I might have to wildcard, to be honest. Like, all week, the reason why I haven't activated it is because I've just been unsure. And I feel when there's doubt, don't do anything.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, how many transfers do you have?
3.
Oh.
It's a tough spot to be in because you can either make the transfers or take a hit as well on top of that and not play the wild card. And have like a mini wild card effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, with Gibbs White being suspended, he could be one of the 4 going out. You are correct, but it's just more that
you've got Trent, you've got Gvardiol, you probably want to hold on to. Robinson against Forest is not a bad shout. Henderson's not a bad shout. Rogers is fine. Eze's fine. Salah's probably fine. Yeah. Jota, question mark at the moment. João Pedro, question mark. Muniz, question mark. So you're making
Muniz is not a question mark. It's more get out and evacuate.
Yeah. Okay, so you could take out Muniz, bring in Wood.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
You could take out Jota.
Diaz. Bumo.
Yeah. That gives you a little bit of cash to then maybe go João Pedro to dare I say it, DCL.
DCL?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't actually think of bringing Pedro out of all things. It was more
Oh.
Gibbs
Oh,
and
interesting.
then
Okay.
bringing Semenya in. He goes on
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, okay.
And
Yeah,
bench Pedro.
that works.
But
I'll
yeah,
say,
and
whilst I want you to join us on the wild card, you could
Oh.
probably avoid it.
Yeah.
yeah, so there is probably merit doing 4 transfers with a hit if one of the players is suspended.
So, question is, do you want any Arsenal players?
Yes.
Yeah, then that's where you get into.
I think Gabriel from Vardiol might have to be it.
The other question is, how far are you pushing this wildcard down the drain effectively or down the line? Because like
Down the drain.
you
I cannot be honest, it's not just a wild card. I think it's my season.
you could go into next week and you're looking at the fixtures now. They look good on paper for some of the players that you mentioned here, but then next week, do they look as good as well? That's the other question. Whereas you could wildcard and then carry those transfers over now as well. So that's the other thing that
That's
maybe.
a good point, isn't it? Yeah.
So like,
That's-
how far do you want to push this? Not play the wildcard. So you will have to you'll have to put it on a planner and just see a couple weeks, see how the team looks like, compared to playing the wildcard and then having those 3 or even 4, 5 free transfers maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably have to do that, to be honest. What's the chat saying? Is anyone actually caring down in the comments? Can I ask?
Combe says, "What a colorful bench," and he
Okay.
says he says Reedy says take a -8.
Did Reedy decide to join?
No, Reedy's not here, but Combe says that Reedy says take a -8. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought Chris Reid was in the comments, and I would have just told him to get back to his own work.
He's in between meetings.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the chat says later, but I'll let you know. But yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
That's what I would
And
say.
I think you can avoid it, but that's a really good question, Ryan. Like, how far along before you? Yeah.
Tough picks, aren't they? Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Fair enough. All good. All right.
All right, Chaza, thank you very much.
You're
I
very
will
welcome.
let you this go. Anything to say before you leave? Or plugs?
Yeah. All right. I'll do my plugs, but before I do my plugs, I just want to say thank you to you and Meera for the conversation, especially onto my side and just talking about the sides. I think that was a really good therapy session, to be honest. It's great to see you both as well. Plugs, yes, FPL Addicts, 9 o'clock Friday. And we are actually on the hunt for a guest this week. So if you want to put your application form in, you are more than welcome to. A fair production line. That is it. Is it the button leave call? I just don't want to ruin your plug.
Yes. No, you can just yep.
Beautiful. All good. Thank you very much, Chatbox.
See you later, Chaz.
Great to see
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Ciao.
Yeah. And let me just quickly switch to a 2% screen. And kind of fix oh no. Our cameras. Give me a second, Meera.
That's all right. That's okay. We'll
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think Chaz could just play his wild card
Yeah.
and have those 3 transfers for later because there's gonna be international break soon as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see what he ends up deciding. But I'll bring up your draft. Your first draft.
Yeah, so I've done 2 drafts, and I apologize because I've been just back and forth a little bit on this. I think so. This is the draft that I like the most at the moment. So I've got Raya in goal. I've got Guardiol, Trent, and Gabriel. Not sold on Guardiol. Could easily be Lewis as well, and then I can upgrade, in the defense elsewhere potentially. And then I've got Diaz, Rogers, and Bumo and Saka captain at the moment. I've then in forward line got Haaland, Jackson, and Wood. And then on bench, Fabianski as the rotating goalkeeper, which won't rotate until Areola gets benched.
Yep.
But I've got Dibbling there and Mikolenko and Greaves as well from Ipswich. So what I'm thinking at the moment is I was a bit tentative on Lewis, as I mentioned earlier. And so I thought, let me just bring in Guardiol and just go with that for the time being. Now, if I don't do that, I would have brought in Lewis and then I can upgrade Mikolenko to a 4.5 and maybe a good solid 4.5 potentially. We talked about some of the Forest, defense there as well. So yeah, maybe that's an option there. Yeah, I quite like this side. It just means I don't have to think about my defense too much as well. I can sort of just forget about it for a bit. Yes, there's the occasional kind of benching of Guardiola that could happen as well. Not sure, but I can, again, if I start with Guardiola, I can then drop him down and then upgrade elsewhere. I'd be then going into, the next game week with an extra transfer as well. So going into game week 7 with 2 free transfers, with the notion of just rolling in
Yep.
7, and then going into 8 with 3 transfers. Yeah. But then hopefully have 4, because I want to roll again, because again, playing the wild card, I'd be thinking about not changing my team for the next 2 fixtures at the very least. Haaland wasn't going to go anywhere. Jackson, I'm thinking just for the next 2, maybe then go to Solanke afterwards, and then go with Chris Wood, as the third option. So this is probably the wildcard draft that I like the most, just because it lets me just not have to deal with any other transfers over the next at least 2 game weeks. And then, yes, I'm banking in transfers where I could then go Luis Diaz elsewhere, and then Jackson down to Solanke potentially. I don't think I'd want to keep Jackson against Liverpool. I don't know if I want Jackson at all, actually. So I could just go Solanke straight off the bat there and just have Haaland, Solanke, and Wood. That then frees up a little bit more cash as well. So I could just upgrade the Mykolenko to 4.5, or I need to just get over he's 4.3, and that's bad. And maybe Mykolenko is just a good pick to have, given the price point and the potential that Everton may have as well. So that's like my first draft that I probably like the most.
Yep. And then I've got your second one, which has the Lewis and Flecken and whatnot.
Yeah, so like I should have mentioned in the previous one as well, that was double Arsenal defense. This one's double Arsenal attack. So this is going, Havertz in there. So I've dropped, Raya out for Flecken. I've then got Lewis in here. Obviously, it makes everything a little bit lighter just because, Havertz up the top. And Jackson's just that little bit more expensive as well. And you can see I have no money left in the bank, even like with my actually my team value is not that great, but I've still got Trent in there. He was, like I mentioned, first name that was on the wildcard sheet for me. Gabriel's there as well. Diaz is still there, although Diaz could be Eze, was a tempting option as well. Again, with the previous draft, I could have gone, Diaz to Eze and just ditched the idea of having a Liverpool attacker there. Rodgers and Mbumo Saka. So the mid is mostly looking the same. Just up front, I've got Haaland, Havertz, and Jackson. So again, it could be Haaland, Havertz, and Solanke, and just start strong there as well, and not have to again think about making any transfers for the next 2 to 3 game weeks at the very least. So that gives me that option. On the bench, Fabianski again. I've got Aina this time, Dibbling still. And Greaves there as well, just as that 4 million option. But yeah, I quite like this one as well. But I think when I think about like the stress the goalkeepers have given me in the past, I like the idea of going Raya, so that's where draft 1 wins for me. Lewis could be a benching issue, so that's where the Guardiola draft wins again for me. The other options are fairly sort of, I can sacrifice. So Havertz, obviously, a sacrifice. And then that money goes to Raya, and then then I'm looking at Wood there as well. So Guardiola's probably the only one in that first draft where I'm not totally sold on, but this one is a really good option if you don't want to go double Arsenal defense, because after the next 3 game weeks, do we want to hold on to double Arsenal defense? I don't know.
Yeah, but then that's the same thing we said for like Spurs and City, and Gabriel scored. So
yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly why I'm preferring that first draft over the second one.
Yeah, fair enough. And then this is what I've got. Oh wait, actually, I've got your post-it notes.
That's right. My virtual post-it notes. I pulled this together really quickly just because I needed to kind of work out which were the nailed players and the positions that I'm trying to work out, and probably look at a few differential picks as well. So from the goalkeeper spot, Raya, Fabianski. In defense, Trent, Gabriel, and Greaves were the only 3 players that were consistent. And then with Porro, Lewis, Mykolenko, Aina, Fais. And Guardiola I didn't mention in there, but he's definitely in there as the optional. Mid, Saka and Boomer and Rogers were the only 3 picks where I was a bit more sort of confident about. Diaz could be Eze, and then Dibbling, Winks, and Carvalho was the slightly upgraded option there. Forward spots, whilst I've got Jackson as a nailed option alongside Haaland, I'm not convinced about that actually. Like just through this conversation as well, and I'm not sure. And I don't want to sort of put like. I don't want to upset Pete there in the chat as well. Like I know there's a bit of Jackson love that we have been giving in this pod as well, but yeah. So I think maybe for 2 game weeks it would be okay, but otherwise I'm thinking about just Solanke straight in and hope that he starts to sort of perform because we know Solanke's a good striker.
Fair enough. And then this is what I've got. Rhea in goal. So I've got double Arsenal defense. Rico Lewis, Trent, Gabriel, Saka, Smith Rowe. I've kept Smith Rowe in this one. Luis Diaz, Mbeumo, Haaland, Jackson, and Calvert-Lewin. Now the Calvert-Lewin pick can rotate with like a Rodgers as well. I could start Rodgers this week actually against Ipswich. And then on the bench I got Fabianski, Rodgers, Mikalenko, and Greaves. So I'm assuming that like the Mikalenko, Rico Lewis will be like the rotation, the 2 defenders, whereas Gabriel and Trent will be like the nailed on set of defenders. I haven't really thought about switching my midfield at all. I'm just happy with those 5. If I was to, maybe it would be Smith Rowe potentially. To maybe a Semenyo at best, but then that's also like 2-week punt, and then I'm booking in a transfer. Whereas I think I'm kind of happy with Fulham and Smith Rowe in general. So,
I really like Smith Rowe. I think he's a really good pick. And I think he'll just get the chances as well. Like there may be some matches there where they won't get any goals, but he's still sort of the involvement's definitely there. So I just think he's a really good pick. The interesting about like, what's your take on Lewis then? I know we talked about like Lewis and Guardiola earlier.
If we get news that he's starting, then I will probably have him. If I don't get news that he's starting, I have 0.3 in the bank. I can go, like I said, to that. Like I was looking for a United defender at 5 million. I might just do it potentially if we don't get any Rico Lewis news.
Yeah,
that's all I would think at the moment. Otherwise, like the other options are, I go to another 4.5, maybe Ole against Fulham.
yeah.
I have to have a look into how that works with Mikalenko potentially. But I haven't fully given it some thought just yet. But yeah, I probably might go, I don't know, I might just go United more just because I think they're improving, and I think a lot of people are overlooking it, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I guess Lewis to Dillit gives you that, you've got just enough. Is that right?
Yeah, because he's 5 million and Rico Lewis at 4.7. So I have 0.3 in the bank. So that's just enough. Yeah. We'll have to see.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
And then the other option I had was without Trent, which and I had Konate in there. That's why I was asking. I was like, ooh, and that does as soon as I see Meera's reaction, like no. The reasoning behind that was because of Watkins. I thought Watkins was a really good striker option. And I think over this conversation, I felt like, okay, maybe it's not worth having Watkins. I'd rather go and get either Jackson or Solanke. I haven't been fully sold on that, which one to go for just yet. Might just go Jackson for the first 2 and then Solanke after, like similar to what you're thinking, and just get Trent back in there. And
would you be tempted to maybe drop Rodgers down? You've got 0.7 in the bank as well.
Yeah.
Would you drop Rodgers down and then upgrade Konate to Robertson?
I could potentially do that as well. So like Rodgers to a Diblin maybe, and upgrade Konate to a Robertson. That could actually work, and I get to keep Watkins as well potentially.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think Watkins definitely the better pick, right? Between Rodgers and Watkins.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm using Rodgers to cover Watkins at the moment, which is not what I should be doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think because I want Trent. It depends on your. I think it depends on your desire to want Trent
because
over.
He's definitely the superior defensive pick. Yep, that even over Robertson, because of the set pieces and everything, Trent does offer that, and I kind of don't want to miss out on that. So I'll probably just end up with Trent, to be honest, and then go for like a Jackson or a Solanke, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's potential to upgrade to Watkins though a bit
Yeah.
later on as well. Like for instance, maybe game week 8 or something like that after international break. You might jump off of Diaz, go elsewhere, and then upgrade, Jackson or
Yeah.
Solanke
Yeah.
to
Could be.
Watkins.
Could be. So I haven't thought fully that far yet, but that could be
Mm.
an option as well. Yeah, that's true. So
I
those are
like
the
it. Yeah.
So those are the two drafts, basically just to show like the three players spots that I'm kind of deciding on is that I guess now Trent will appear in that. So it's basically Rico Lewis or Delete or Dalot, one of the three, and Jackson or Solanke, basically.
I feel like I'm missing. I feel like maybe I need to go and, put aside my bias against like United and maybe just kind of have a look at a couple of the options.
Maybe, or it might just be my bias, and I'm kind of like overlooking how bad we are. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's kind of basically all we got. So thank you, Meera. It's been a very long pod. Sorry for keeping it too long.
It has. No, all good. I think there was just a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Not just with the drafts, but just with the fixtures coming up, and there's so many options, right? So no, thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice to chat to you.
Fair enough. And there was one question, I guess not question, but mentioned from Combe. He was like, if you're looking at Fabian's case, a non-playing pick, there are a couple 4 million goalkeepers that look to be going down in price soon.
Oh, interesting.
So one to kind of monitor. And there was a question earlier about Gundogan from City.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't really give him too much thought, but
no, I keep forgetting he's there.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. How much is he? Is he sort of what 6.5 as well? There's a few around that range, isn't there? Like there's
6.5. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to see how Pep manages Newcastle without Rodri, because like I say, he might do I don't think he'll take a band-aid approach to the Newcastle fixture. I think he's already been thinking, because Rodri was out and then he's come back in. I think he had a whole other strategy in mind. So
yeah, probably wait a bit more to see what exactly happens. But I don't mind Gundogan if he can rediscover like the form he had before moving to Barca as well.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I'd prefer to go Foden though.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. Like if I don't go Guardiola and I go Lewis, right? Similar to you having the Mikalenko and Lewis, rotating option. I have more money left in the bank, which is great. But that means once I drop, actually, I'm not relying on the drop from Jackson down to Solanke. But if I was to drop Jackson down to Solanke as well, a little bit more money in the bank, I can upgrade Diaz to a Foden by game week 8. I just don't know if he's a viable option though by game week 8.
True. Fair enough. Okay. One to monitor and see how it goes. But if you had to pick one, because Shiraz is asking, Gundogan or Savinho, I probably lean towards Gundogan. Maybe?
Gundogan, yeah, just because of the he's on corners and free kick. Oh, is that Savinho? That's on corner and free kicks? Or?
No, Gundogan. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, we'll end it there. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Meera, plugs before we leave.
I've got my own show off the cuff, similar to this, quite rambly. No, I'm joking. Less stats, but it's more of my video diary of my season, how it's going, and all of that. I think you've got it linked in the description there. Yeah, I'm fairly active on Twitter as well. Drop me a follow.
Indeed. Make sure to give a follow and give Chaza a follow as well. And thank you all for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you all later.